Cats' gifts. Cats have many gifts that are denied to humans, and yet we tend to rate them by human standards. To understand a cat, you must realize that he has his own gifts, his own viewpoint, even his own morality. A cat's lack of speech does not make him a lower animal. Cats have a contempt of speech. Why should they talk when they can communicate without words? They manage very well among themselves, and they patiently try to make their thoughts known to humans. But in order to read a cat, you must be relaxed and receptive. Lilian Jackson Braun, the cat who could read backwards. Vigilant as a cat. I am as vigilant as a cat to steal cream. William Shakespeare, Henry VI, or Fourth. Henry the Fourth. An humble petition presented to Madame Helve'tius by her cats. We shall not endeavor to defend ourselves equally from devouring as many sparrows, blackbirds, and thrushes as we can possibly catch. But here we have to plead in extenuation that our most cruel enemies, your abbess themselves, are incessantly complaining of the ravages made by these birds among the cherries and other fruit. The Sieur Abbé Morellet, in particular, is always thundering the most violent anathemas against the blackbirds and thrushes, for plundering your vines, which they do with as little mercy as he himself. To us, however, most illustrious lady, it appears that the grapes may just as well be eaten by blackbirds as by abbés, and that our warfare against the winged plunderers will be fruitless if you encourage other biped and featherless pilferers who make 10 times more havoc. We know that we are also accused of eating nightingales, who never plunder, and sing, as they say, most enchantingly. It is indeed possible that we may now and then have gratified our palates with a delicious morsel in this way, but we can assure you that it was in utter ignorance of your affection for the species, and that, resembling sparrows in their plumage, we, who make no pretensions to being connoisseurs in music, could not distinguish the song of the one from that of the other, and therefore supposed ourselves regaling only on sparrows. A cat belonging to M. Piccini has assured us that they who only know how to mew cannot be any judges of the art of singing, and on this we rest for our justification. However, we will henceforward exert our utmost endeavours to distinguish the gluckists, who are, as we are informed, the sparrows, from the Piccinists, who are the nightingales. We only entreat of you to pardon the inadvertence into which we may possibly fall, if, in roving after nests, we may sometimes fall upon a brood of the Piccinists, who, being then destitute of plumage and not having learnt to sing, will have no mark by which to distinguish them. Benjamin Franklin, Franklin's Wit and Folly. Cat versus dog. Living with a kitten or cat is a rewarding experience. Like dogs, they ask so little and give so much, and they still carry within themselves so many traits that have come down from the ancient past. Man has had for thousands of years what the biologists call a symbiotic relationship with certain other species, which means that both live together for their mutual benefit. It is not exactly fair because we are always at the top, and the animal has to adjust to us. We have seldom, if ever, tried to maintain this symbiosis on a fair basis. We began the association for our own uses. Dogs could chase the primitive hunter's prey and bring it in and receive a bone for reward. Cats could keep down the rat and mouse population, not to mention moles and other small predators, and in return get a few inches by the fire to curl up in. We had the best of both worlds, using the skill of our symbiotic associates, but feeling no responsibility in return. Now we are supposed to be highly civilized creatures, although we alone deliberately kill our own kind. The lower animals do not, except perhaps in the heat of sexual competition. In the long history of mankind, dogs have been easiest to subjugate. A dog will put up with almost anything. Dogs have infinite patience with this peculiar breed that controls their destinies, and will even wear skirts and headdresses and run around on their hind legs to amuse people. Cats, on the other hand, have managed to keep a kind of independence. They are determined to preserve a little of their original personality. This is the reason so many people say they would never have a cat, because a cat is unmanageable. As one who loves and admires both dogs and cats, I may say this is exceedingly silly. We do not expect everyone to be exactly alike, and if we feel a cat should be like a dog, we are missing something important. Gladys Tabor, Amber, a very personal cat. Qualities of cats. With the qualities of cleanliness, discretion, affection, patience, dignity, and courage that cats have, how many of us, I ask you, would be capable of being cats? Fernand, Mery, Her Majesty the Cat. Cat's eyes. There are several things about cats that, in primitive minds, are sufficient to connect them with the moon. First, of course, are their eyes, which have such a strange and beautiful luminosity and a seemingly weird ability to penetrate the dark. Men fear the dark, and cats do not, which is enough to suggest that the cat has some sort of understanding with whatever power rules the world of night. A she-cat, suckling kittens, lies in a suggestive crescent, and is the very essence of maternity. The moon has often been connected with fertility, amorous passion, and the female principle, and all of these are very evident properties of the cat. The way cats walk noiselessly and leap as carelessly as though an unseen hand were guiding them to some high place was enough to put the hair up on many a primitive human. Cats do other things which can be taken as signs that they see, hear, and know things imperceptible to human beings. The conformation of the cat's eyes gives it a clear yet shallow stare, which strikes humans as inscrutable. Its gaze is intense, and yet it is sometimes hard to see just what the cat is looking at, and consequently easy to imagine that it is seeing the unseeable. Cats have a habit of concentrating when there is apparently nothing to concentrate on, and at other times seem suddenly to respond with quick attention or an unaccountable leap to something that isn't there. In other words, they seem to see ghosts. Sometimes a cat's fur crackles with electricity when it is stroked, giving an eerie tingling to the fingers of the stroker, or it may even make tiny visible sparks. This may presage a change in weather, suggesting that the cat had something to do with events in the future. Even the general behavior of cats, so independent of anything but inner dictates, can make it seem as though the cat received guidance from any uncanny source. Sometimes this behavior is connected with a specific event, so it appears, by hindsight, that the cat must have been gifted with foresight. Faith McNulty and Elizabeth Keiffer, Holy Cats. Cats and humans, all the same. Of all the beasts that live, we must, I guess, call cats the humanest. For just like folks, you'll find that these has no end to their qualities. For some is fat and some is lean, some very dirty and some clean. Some's always licking at their fur, and some's not so particular. Some cats take just fresh milk and meat, some takes all that they're gave to eat. Some cats they cough, and some they wheeze, and some's afflicted by disease. Some cats is blind and stone deaf some, but ain't no cat was ever dumb. Some cats will monkey round and fool, and play for hours with just a spool, while some just sit and blink their eyes, preferring to philosophize. Some cats likes most folks pretty fine, but some takes care to draw the line. Some comes and rubs against you, which means will you scratch them where they itch, while others is so mean all through, they like lots better scratchin' you. And so you see the marvelous way felines does resemble us. Cats and humans, all the same, just sort of different in the name. Anthony Henderson Euwer, Christopher Cricket on Cats. Sonnet to Mrs. Reynolds' Cat. Cat, who hast passed thy grand climacteric, how many mice and rats hast in thy days destroyed, how many titbits stolen, gaze with those bright languid segments green, and prick those velvet ears, but prithee do not stick thy latent talons in me, and upraise thy gentle mew, and tell me all thy phrase of fish and mice and rats and tender chick. Nay, look not down, nor lick thy dainty wrists, for all the wheezy asthma, and for all thy tail's tip is nicked off, and though the fists of many a maid have given thee many a maul, still is that fur as soft as when the lists in youth thou enteredst on glass-bottled wall. John Keats. In honor of Taffy Topaz. Taffy, the topaz-colored cat, thinks now of this and now of that, but chiefly on his meals. Asparagus and cream and fish are objects of his Freudian wish. What you don't give, he steals. His gallant heart is strongly stirred by clink of plate or flight of bird. He has a plumy tail. At night he treads on stealthy pad, as merry as Sir Galahad, a-seeking of the Grail. His amiable amber eyes are very friendly, very wise, like Buddha grave and fat. He sits regardless of applause, and thinking as he kneads his paws, what fun to be a cat. Christopher Morley, Songs for a Little House. Seventh Caterwaul. How lucky to be a cat, free to accept or refuse what is offered. Walter Leon Hess, Feline Philosophy. If I had a cat. A cat or a dog is something to play with, something to protect, something to bully, something to be dependent on you, something to sympathize with you, to abolish solitude, to take a lenient view of you, to have no secrets from, to talk to without being too well understood, something to observe, to study the primitive instincts in, to remind you of your high place in creation, even not to shrink from sentiment, something to love. H.W. Fowler, If Wishes Were Horses. What could it be? I really do not like that cat. I don't know why. It's maybe that she is vicious, cruel, rude, ungrateful, smelly, treacherous, and hateful, supercilious, stupid, eerie, thoroughly boring, dull, and dreary, scheming, cold, and unproductive, inconvenient, and destructive. But most, I've just a feeling that I really do not like that cat. William Cole, A Cat Hater's Handbook. Kitten. The trouble with a kitten is that, eventually, it becomes a cat. Ogden Nash, verses from 1929 on.